May 1944. The South Pacific was an endless plain of blue and steel. Beneath its surface, the war was as cold and invisible as the depths themselves. Far from the headlines and the massive island invasions, a quiet hunt was beginning, one that would make naval history. The USS England, DE 635, a newly commissioned destroyer escort, sliced through the calm waters east of the Solomon Islands. She was small, only about 300 feet long, barely half the size of a fleet destroyer, but armed with the latest in anti-submarine warfare technology. Her crew of 200 men, mostly in their early 20s, stood alert at their stations, their eyes fixed on sonar screens and the horizon. They did not yet know that over the next 12 days, their ship would do what no other warship in history had ever done: sink 6 enemy submarines in less than 2 weeks. By mid-1944, the Pacific War had entered a decisive phase. American forces were advancing across the Central Pacific in a relentless island-hopping campaign. The once mighty Japanese Navy had been crippled by defeats at Coral Sea, Midway, and the Solomons. Yet Japan still had one weapon it believed could slow the American tide: its submarine fleet. Unlike the German U-boats in the Atlantic, Japan's submarines were not primarily commerce raiders. They were designed as fleet scouts and special mission vessels, large, long-ranged, and often carrying aircraft or midget subs. But by 1944, with Japan's carriers and battleships mostly destroyed or bottled up, these submarines were being reassigned to desperate patrols. Their mission was to disrupt Allied supply lines and report on American fleet movements. It was a dangerous time to be beneath the waves. The U.S. Navy had learned fast. Advances in sonar, radar, and airborne reconnaissance had turned the hunter into the hunted. The Americans now had ships designed specifically to counter submarines, destroyer escorts. Smaller and cheaper than full destroyers, they were fast, maneuverable, and armed with depth charges, hedgehog mortars, and advanced sonar systems that could pinpoint an enemy hundreds of feet below the surface. The USS England was one of these. Commissioned in December 1943 and named after Ensign John C. England, a young officer who had died aboard the USS Oklahoma at Pearl Harbor, the ship carried a legacy of vengeance and duty. Under the command of Lieutenant Commander Walton B. Pendleton, she joined the Pacific Fleet in early 1944 as part of Escort Division 39, alongside her sister ships USS George, DE 697, and USS Raby, DE 698. Their task seemed simple: protect convoys and hunt submarines. But fate would soon give them a much larger challenge. In early May, American intelligence intercepted a message from Japan's 6th Fleet headquarters at Truk. It detailed the movement of a group of Japanese submarines codenamed AGO, part of Japan's plan to defend the Marianas and Carolines from the coming U.S. invasion. Several subs were being deployed along the vital supply route between Bougainville and New Guinea to scout Allied movements. Admiral William F. Halsey's South Pacific Command saw an opportunity. He ordered a hunter-killer group, centered around the George, Raby, and England, to intercept. It would be a quiet mission: no headlines, no carrier strikes, just a search across thousands of square miles of ocean. But for the young men aboard England, it would become 12 days they would never forget. The ocean that week was deceptive in its calm. The sun beat down on steel decks by day, and at night, the water turned to black glass. Life aboard a destroyer escort was routine but tense: constant radar watches, sonar sweeps, drills, and the never-ending hum of engines. Below decks, the crew slept in narrow bunks, sweat mixing with diesel and salt air. They knew Japanese submarines were somewhere out there, watching, waiting. Then came May 18, 1944. At 1:25 in the afternoon, sonar operator George C. Fiedler picked up a faint echo, a contact at 1,900 yards. Pendleton immediately went to full alert. The England and her sister ships maneuvered into attack formation. The contact was real: a Japanese submarine, later identified as I-16, a veteran of early war operations, including the Guadalcanal campaign. Pendleton ordered a hedgehog attack, a forward-thrown pattern of 24 small contact-fused bombs designed to detonate only on impact. It was a precise weapon, deadly to any submarine it touched. At 2:33 p.m., the first salvo went out. Moments later, four sharp underwater explosions ripped through the sonar feed. The men on the bridge held their breath, then a large underwater blast followed by oil, debris, and air bubbles surfaced. The first kill was confirmed. USS-16 had been destroyed with all hands, 91 men lost beneath the waves. It was England's first combat success, and Pendleton's calm voice over the ship's intercom said only, "Good work, boys. Let's find the next one." 2 days later, on May 22, radar contact appeared again, a surfaced submarine running northeast of Manus Island. The destroyers moved to intercept, closing fast. As they approached, the submarine dove, but England's sonar quickly reacquired the target. This was I-18, another large Japanese boat returning from Truk. This time, Pendleton allowed his men to refine their pattern, a calculated patience. On the third attack run, 23 Hedgehog projectiles arced into the sea. Seconds later, multiple explosions shook the ship. A column of dark oil and shattered debris rose to the surface. Within 48 hours, the USS England had destroyed 2 submarines, a record few ships could match in an entire war. The following day, May 23, at dawn, sonar picked up another contact. At 2:10 a.m., England made her approach, another Japanese submarine, RO-106, a smaller coastal type operating out of Rabaul. She was caught trying to escape through the Bismarck Sea. The crew had barely slept, their faces pale in the glow of control room lights. Pendleton ordered one precise attack. The sonar trace vanished after a series of explosions. Wreckage and oil quickly surfaced. 3 submarines gone. In less than 5 days. By May 24, England, George, and Raby were ordered to sweep northwest toward the Northern Solomons. That evening, George picked up a radar contact at 7,000 yards, another surfaced submarine, RO-104. As the destroyers closed, the submarine crash-dived. England took the lead once again. Her sonar men tracked the target through a series of evasive maneuvers, the sub diving deep, then turning hard to port. Pendleton's voice was calm as ever, steady, maintain bearing, fire. The Hedgehogs launched. After a moment of silence, 5 violent detonations rolled up through the hull. Another massive bubble of air and oil burst to the surface. The Japanese RO-104 was gone. 4 submarines in 6 days. The ocean was now a graveyard of steel. Each success brought more attention from command. Admiral Halsey himself sent a message, "Fantastic. Keep that up and I'll have to send you Christmas cards early." It was humor masking astonishment, the Navy had never seen anything like it. The next day, May 26, the trio of destroyers detected yet another radar contact. This was RO-116, operating near Green Island. Once again, England was first to engage. Her sonar crew followed the target through deep turns and dives. The Japanese sub tried to escape, releasing decoys and changing depth rapidly. But the England's Hedgehog projector was fast to reload, and within minutes, another pattern of explosives sank beneath the waves. 4 distinct hits followed. A deep rumble, then silence. Only oil, wood, and a single floating life jacket surfaced. 5 submarines. Each attack nearly identical. Each more precise than the last. By now, Japanese headquarters at Truk was in panic. The loss of 5 submarines in one sector within a single week was unprecedented. They had no idea that it was one small American escort group responsible. Believing there must be a large task force of destroyers and aircraft hunting them, they dispatched another submarine, RO-108, to scout and, if possible, retaliate. On the evening of May 30, 1944, radar picked up another contact northeast of Manus. George and Raby moved to block, while England took the offensive position. At 3:50 a.m., sonar made contact. Pendleton ordered silent running, only minimal engine power. The men spoke in whispers. They had been at sea and in combat for nearly 2 weeks without rest. Every face was hollow from exhaustion. The submarine tried to evade. The sonar ping faded, returned, faded again. Then the trace stabilized at 1,800 yards, steady bearing. "Range steady," said the sonar operator. Pendleton leaned over the plotting table. "Fire." 24 Hedgehogs fired in rapid succession, the projectors recoiling in rhythm. Seconds later, 4 almost simultaneous explosions shook the sea. A moment of quiet, then one final, massive detonation. The water boiled, then fell silent. The surface erupted with oil, wood fragments, and a faint haze of diesel fuel. RO-108 had been destroyed. 6 submarines. 12 days. A record unmatched in naval history, before or since. In the aftermath, England and her group were ordered to return to Purvis Bay for refit. Their decks were slick with oil stains, their magazines nearly empty. The men were exhausted, their uniforms salt-stiff and sun-bleached. But when they steamed into port, the news had already reached across the Pacific. Word spread from ship to ship. One small destroyer escort had sunk 6 submarines in 12 days. Admiral Ernest King, Chief of Naval Operations, sent a congratulatory message. Admiral Halsey wired, "There will always be an England in the United States Navy." It became both tribute and prophecy. Japanese records later confirmed every kill. The precision of the attack stunned even post-war analysts. The U.S. Navy's sonar technology, the Hedgehog's reliability, and the discipline of England's crew had created the perfect synthesis of science and seamanship. In total, England's 6 victories included I-16, destroyed May 18. I-18, destroyed May 22. RO-106, destroyed May 23. RO-104, destroyed May 24. RO-116, destroyed May 26. RO-108, destroyed May 30. No other ship, of any navy, achieved a similar feat during the entire Second World War. In the following months, England continued escort and patrol duties. She was later reassigned to the Philippines invasion and Okinawa operations. But her historic run in May 1944 remained her defining moment. When she was struck by a Japanese kamikaze in May 1945, she burned for hours before sinking near Okinawa. 37 men were lost. Her record, however, lived on. For the United States Navy, England's 12-day campaign represented the triumph of methodical warfare, proof that technology and training could defeat stealth and surprise. It marked the end of Japan's ability to use its submarine fleet as a meaningful threat in the South Pacific. By war's end, Japan's 190-boat submarine force had been reduced to almost nothing. Many were sunk without ever sighting an enemy ship. The Allies' dominance of radar, sonar, and air power had made the undersea battlefield one-sided. But beyond the numbers lay something more human. The men of the England were not seasoned veterans or decorated heroes when they began their patrol. They were ordinary sailors, radio men, machinists, cooks, and seamen, who followed procedures, trusted their instruments, and believed in each other. Each attack was a feat of teamwork, the sonar operator's steady ping, the helmsman's exact turn, the weapon's crew's perfect timing. In every successful strike lay thousands of small, unseen decisions, each correct, each necessary. Their success wasn't luck. It was precision. Today, naval historians still study England's patrol as a case study in anti-submarine warfare. The tactics developed in those days, sonar tracking, coordinated group attacks, hedgehog patterns, became the foundation for Cold War submarine hunting. The ship's log, now preserved in archives, remains one of the most remarkable operational records ever written by a destroyer escort. In the calm after the war, survivors from England spoke of those 12 days with a mix of pride and humility. They rarely called it heroism. To them, it was just duty. One sailor later said, "We didn't think about breaking records. We just wanted to do the job right, so nobody else would die because we didn't." There was something deeply American in that. Quiet professionalism, precision over glory, teamwork over fame. When Admiral Halsey said, "There will always be an England in the United States Navy," he meant more than just a ship's name. He meant a standard, a reminder of what focus, discipline, and unity could accomplish even in the vast loneliness of war. In May 1944, somewhere east of the Solomons, the USS England proved that even in a conflict of millions, history could turn on the skill of a few hundred men aboard a small ship. The Pacific was wide and merciless, but for 12 days, one destroyer escort hunted through it like a surgeon, silent and exact. 6 submarines vanished beneath her, and with them, Japan's hope of regaining control of the sea. The ocean closed over their graves, quiet once more. The war moved on, to Saipan, Leyte, Okinawa. But the name England remained etched into the Navy's legacy, a record of unmatched precision and relentless pursuit. To this day, no ship, fleet, or nation has equaled that feat. Because sometimes, history is not made by the largest guns or the biggest fleets, but by the steady rhythm of a sonar ping, and the calm voice of a captain who simply says, "Fire."